Hey guys, Adrian here, and today I'm going to talk to you about why Python is my favorite programming language. As I've said in previous videos, I started off programming in QBasic way back in the day. When I got to college, I started learning Java concurrently with Perl. I was using Java in my classes, I was using Perl professionally. And then moved on from there into learning more C++ in school. About 6 years ago, I got a job where I needed to learn Python, and I feel like I took to it pretty quickly. And so I wanted to share with you guys why I really like Python. The first reason that comes to mind is readability. In other programming languages, you use a lot of parentheses and curly braces, which can really clutter up your source code. I mean, if you've ever programmed in any kind of Lisp language, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. It makes it more difficult to read because there's just so much clutter. Python doesn't do that. Python does code block separation using indentation. You end up with a lot more concise blocks of code that end up being much easier to read. It's also fairly readable because it is such a concise language. The usual comparison that I've seen on the internet is between Python and Java, and if my editing skills are up to the task, then right here will be the Java hello world, and right here will be the Python hello world. And if you look at the difference between the two, one is way easier to read than the other one. And coming from a system administration Perl background, I can tell you that readability definitely is something that will come up and bite you in the ass later on, because you will always go back and look at old source code for whatever reason. You need to change a script, you need to rewrite a function, something like that. I can tell you from experience, Python is probably the easiest language to be able to go back and read your own old code and understand what you were talking about and be able to modify your code. Perl probably being the least easy to reread and figure out what you're doing, especially if you're doing a lot of the weird esoteric things that Perl is really known for. If you have any coding experience in which you've dealt with a project for longer than a few weeks, you're gonna eventually end up going back into it and trying to figure out what it was that you wrote. And even as soon as 6 months of a time lapse between writing it and trying to reread it, you're still going to look at it for the most part and go, what is this? Especially if you're at the front end of your learning curve, because you're going to be learning so much. And so when you go back and look at a project that you have been working on, but you go back and look at some of the older code, you go, why did I do that way? There's a way easier way to do it, and I'm just going to change it here. And it ends up being a huge mess because you don't know what you were writing, you don't know what you were thinking when you wrote that. You never remember. The easier the code is to read by itself, regardless of whether you wrote it or not, the easier it will be to comprehend that code in the long run. Another reason why I really like Python is that it's so flexible. When I first started using it, it was from the perspective of a system administrator. So a lot of what I was using Python for was scripting. And I don't want to say simple scripting because a lot of the stuff that I was doing was actually pretty complex, but it was nowhere near the complexity of a full-blown product, a full-blown software project. It was very easy to use Python for that because you could just write everything out declaratively. You could have it just run line by line through the entire script and be done and not have to worry about anything like that. But at the same time, you could use it completely procedurally. You know, if you wanted to get into procedural programming, it's absolutely functional in that way too. If you wanted to make your entire project object-oriented, you could absolutely do that. No matter what your programming style, it will take that into account. And again, flexibility. You know, Python started off as a dynamically typed language, which means that when you assign a variable, you don't have to declare it first and you don't have to declare the type ahead of time. It just is, and it is loaded with whatever you need. And for convenience's sake, that is great. But some people don't like that. Some people want their language to be statically typed, which in Python 3 you can do. You can statically type all of your variables in your language, or you can just leave all of your variables dynamically typed as they are natively in Python. whichever way you want to go with it, you can go with it. And I feel like every aspect of programming that I've ever been exposed to is pretty well covered in Python, making it one of the most flexible languages I've ever seen. And the last reason why Python is my favorite programming language is because it's popular. Every year GitHub does a survey of all of the repositories that are kept on GitHub to figure out things about, what languages are used and that sort of thing. And the results from this year's survey said that Python is the third most popular language on GitHub. Now, citing popularity as a reason why a language is your favorite programming language seems kind of stupid, but it really isn't. There's a really good grounded reason for it. And most of that comes down to, because so many people are using it, a lot of people are building for Python. There are a lot of third-party libraries out there that are easily accessible through PyPI that get you access to virtually anything that you would need for any project that you have. A lot of times when I'm working on personal projects at home and I think to myself, oh, it'd be nice if I could connect to this web API or that web API or whatever, this thing or that thing. Probably 99% of the time, if I go look on PyPI, I can find a library that somebody's written that gives you access to that, which is really great because then you don't have to spend so much time dealing with the nitty-gritty connections to various things. And also, it really ramps up the documentation level for the community itself. Because the more people that use something, the more people are going to be writing or requesting documentation on how things work. I know that I have personally chosen libraries to use where the documentation was better for one than the other, as opposed to the functionality, because I would have been able to work around the functionality as long as I understood what I was doing, and the documentation helps with that. And these are all things that don't happen in a less popular language. The less popular a language is, the more of that sort of thing you're going to have to do yourself. And I'm lazy and I don't want to have to do things that I don't want to do. And that's really what it comes down to. Now, with that being said, do I think that everything should be written in Python because I think that Python is the best? No, absolutely not. I think that there is a right tool for every job, and Python may not be the best tool for your particular job. For instance, in my current job, I'm doing a lot more Groovy programming than I have done. I haven't done any Python programming in my current job for the last month or so. It's mostly been working in Groovy because Groovy is exactly what is needed in the use case that we're currently using. If I'm going to start a project at home, I'm absolutely going to do it in Python unless I find something that is better suited for the project that I'm working on. Anyways, those are my 2 cents. I thought I'd just throw some information out there, let you guys know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like what I'm doing on this channel, hit subscribe. And if you're interested in what I do and you want to know more, hit me up in the comments. I'll answer what I can, and if I have the chance to make a video about something that you asked me about, I will make a video about it. So I'll talk to you guys next time.